Okay, so at like 1 in the morning, I took this thing out for about a 4 mile ride. Not with a camera or anything, just basically a big rectangle, just to see how it ran, make sure everything was as it should be. And for 2.5 miles, it was absolutely perfect. I mean, it ran like a brand new bike, and then it died. And then I had to walk this thing home 1.5 miles, and about half of that was uphill. So that was fun. Merry Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho.
So there's nothing wrong with the bike. I mean, physically it's perfect, but it's just more electrical nonsense. And I thought I had it figured out, but it turns out there's multiple issues. And hopefully I've got this ironed out now, but let's get into it. Okay, so I wasn't getting spark initially because of that coil. So I got the new coil, but it was very old. I can tell the box, you can tell, was from like 20 years ago, and it looked like it was sitting underwater for like a year. It just had this weird faded label on it. It had some dents on it. It didn't look right. And I think that's why I broke down after 2.5 miles. I think the coil just was not up to it. And it was like really hot when it died, which is a bad sign. So I ordered another coil, this time from Hitchcock's, and that one came in a bag full of oil. So that had ruptured and was a broken, useless paperweight. So then they sent me this second one, which I finally got. This one's good, and it's in there. So I think I have the coil problem figured out now, but there's more going on. And real quick, these my little purple vent hoses from the carburetor, they're kind of growing on me. So I might stick with those and not get the clear ones. I don't know. They just have like that little bit of contrast, and they look kind of cool. I think I'm going to keep them. Okay, so this is another problem I was having, and it's kind of common, when these bikes get older, is my kill switch was starting to act a little flaky. I kind of had to switch it on and off a couple times. I wasn't getting spark, so I'd mess with it, and then I'd get spark again. So this is something I've kind of been meaning to do anyways. I just hot wired this thing. I cut the wires from the switch and just spliced them together. So I don't have a kill switch anymore, but it's something I never used. I would prefer just not have one at all. I don't like having kill switches. That's just me. But now it's not going to be in the back of my head if there's ever an issue. Well, is it the kill switch? Because now there is no kill switch. It's just a direct connection. So I'm happy with that. And I'm not going to try to remove it. I mean, it looks fine, but it's now just a direct wired connection. So I solved that problem. I still, at times, kept losing spark. So this is after I know I have a good coil, after I've hot wired the kill switch, it still would cut off just sort of randomly. So I went through this for a couple days with my meter and checked everything. And the first thing I did, and kind of the most important thing, was just to make sure that the alternator was working properly and that I was also charging the battery properly. And both things checked out. There's no problem there. But I was just still kind of randomly losing spark, and it all led to one, hopefully, final issue. And that is the ignition switch, which you can see is gone. And everything is pointing to that as being sort of the final weak link in the chain here. And it's kind of like the kill switch, but even more so, that these are just notorious for failing. At 15, 20 years down the line, they just start acting up. And I think this one definitely was. And just doing weird stuff also, like when I would turn on, it would not have spark, but then when I would turn it off, just by the act of turning it off, it would spark the plug. It was very strange. And I remember a couple times when I was having issues and I would turn off, I would hear it pop out the exhaust because it was sparking that one more time by turning it off. So something was definitely going on with this ignition switch. A new one is on the way. And the only bummer is I'm going to have, a set of new keys. So I'm going to have a key for this, which will now be different from the gas cap and the side boxes and whatever. But, I had a Harley once that had, for some reason, from the factory, it was a key for the ignition, key for the gas cap, and a key to lock the handlebars. So I'm kind of used to having multiple keys. So not a big deal. And as long as the new ignition switch works, all is well.
All is well!
So this is just a quick update on what's going on, and just to explain why I haven't had a first ride video yet, because when it runs incredibly well, but then it doesn't run. And physically it's perfect. I mean, I couldn't be happier with how this build turned out. But, you know, just electrically, it's been a little buggy, and you have to understand, this bike was a basket case when I started this. And, you know, I was hoping that it wouldn't have a bunch of electrical issues, and I kind of predicted it would, and in the end, it turns out that it definitely did. But, you know, not a big deal in the big picture. You know, it's good that I'm getting all these resolved, so, you know, nothing creeps up later. I might as well just take care of it now. And, you know, I think the ignition switch is kind of the last weak link in the chain here, and it's going to solve the kind of intermittent spark problem, and I'll have this thing on the road reliably. You know, the big things have been knocked out. You know, the alternators, again, working perfectly. The battery's charging perfectly. The grounds are good. You know, so most of the issues have been checked off. It's just a matter of installing the new ignition switch, and if I have to, going through the wires behind the headlight. I don't think I'm going to. I think this is going to stop at the ignition switch. But, you know, I don't know. We'll see. And there's a lot of cool stuff coming up. So if you're new, definitely stick around and subscribe. I'm going to be comparing this to some older bikes, some vintage Nortons and Triumphs. And, you know, this isn't worth what those bikes are, but it's just such a similar look and feel and vibe that I think it's going to be a really cool comparison. You know, this was built in India, not England. That makes a difference. But just overall, just looking at this bike, riding this bike, it's just such, you know, such a cool thing. And it really is similar to riding, you know, a comparable bike from Norton or Triumph. Even though the Triumphs I'm going to be looking at are, you know, parallel twins, but, you know, same general idea, same vibe, you know, same type of ride. And I think it's going to be very cool to compare them. So that kind of wraps up this video. I should have my ignition switch in the next couple of days, and we'll see how it goes. So I'll keep everyone posted. Merry Christmas. I'll be back after the holiday. And until next time, guys. And check this out. You know, it's the little things in life. I got a clear cover for my ignition. I think it's kind of cool. You can see it spinning because, you know, I can't get a clear clutch cover with this thing, but I could get a clear cover on this. I think it looks pretty cool. And yes, there's a screw missing. I got to get a new screw. But I'm digging it. I think it's pretty cool. Even though it's kind of ugly behind it, it's still pretty cool.